Hi everyone, happy Sunday. It's Sunday evening and the Broncos are on, so hopefully you are all watching the game and having a beer and not focusing on our class. But I have a lot to do in our class, so unfortunately this is what I'm doing, although I wish I was doing that. But I wanted to send you a quick video message. This is really thanks to Marnie. She's asked several times if I'm going to have videoed lectures, and I will at some point throughout the semester. I'm thinking probably when we talk about analysis, because I think that might be more effectively communicated with a videoed lecture. But up to this point, I think most of the material can be easily grasped just by reading it. So, but what I'll try and do is post supplemental video messages that will just highlight what I think is important for that week and bring in maybe some of my examples from my own program evaluation. So for week one, what I wanted to really highlight is just the importance of timing of the evaluation and the timing of the development and implementation of a program. So the type of evaluation is related to this. So I really highlight two types of evaluation: formative and summative. Formative typically takes place before a program is developed or when a program is in process, but the main aim is really to collect information that would inform the program design or really the performance of the program. So this is different than summative, which is really looking at outcomes. So did the program have the intended impact that the developer would hope it did? Summative generally takes place towards the end of a program or after a program's been done. So I just wanted to sort of explain a little bit further how the timing of the evaluation sort of interfaces with the timing of the program development and implementation. To give you an example, I'm the developer of the Culture of Wellness in Preschools program, so I do a lot of both intervention and research work in early childhood obesity prevention. And with the Culture of Wellness in Preschools program, before we actually implemented it, I went to every single Head Start site here in Denver. I was working with Denver's Great Kids Head Start. There were 26 Head Start sites at the time, and I went to every one and conducted focus groups with staff and with parents. And what I really wanted to understand was what types of wellness activities were already being done in the Head Start sites. What were barriers and facilitators to implementing wellness activities, and just in general for Head Start families to actually eat healthy and to be physically active. And then I wanted to know, what did teachers and staff and parents want? What types of wellness activities would they want? If I could wave a magic wand, what would they want at their center? So with all this information, I put it together, and with the help of others, we developed a early childhood obesity prevention program. We actually implemented it, and now what we're doing is doing a summative evaluation. So we're looking at the impacts both on children and on parents and staff, because it's really a sort of takes a socio-ecological model approach and is multi-level with different strategies. So anyways, that's just an example of a program where both formative and summative evaluation work was done. The other points I wanted to make is I don't want anyone to really get too hung up on the vocabulary. I think it's important to know these terms, but the truth is I didn't know these terms for years until I had been doing this work for years, because to me evaluation seems very common sense. So what is really important for you to know is how the purpose of the evaluation, really how you get to the purpose of the evaluation, and that informs the type of evaluation you do. And in my opinion, there's sort of four key questions to ask to get at the purpose, and that is what are the stakeholders' needs? So really understanding that. What are the evaluation or research, if you're doing research, what are the evaluation or research questions? What is the timing of the evaluation as it relates to the program, which goes back to what we said earlier, and then how will the results be used? And I think the answers to those 4 questions really will point you in the direction of what type of evaluation you should be doing. The other things I just want to point out is on slides 31 and 32, I present the precede proceed model. Those slides are kind of inserted in the presentation without much explanation at all, but I think they're incredibly important because it really shows how interconnected program development is with program evaluation. So it's very cyclical in nature, and one informs the other, so it sort of goes back and forth. So for what it's worth, the precede model is the first few steps, and that really gets at whenever you have a health problem that you're trying to tackle, understanding root causes of that health problem, then developing a program that addresses those root causes, and then evaluating it. But the evaluation is really related to the root causes and to the program activities. So we'll get at more of this later when we talk about logic models, but it's important to sort of step back and be able to see that big picture of program evaluation, so you don't get lost in kind of the minutia of data collection and, creating instruments, etc. So that was it. And then the last part of my week 1 presentation is really just to highlight the fact that program evaluation crosses all disciplines. I've done program evaluations in many disciplines that I haven't been formally trained in, but if you know how to do program evaluation, you can learn the content area and do the evaluation. It's very comparable to quantitative research methods or quantitative data analysis, so that's what I was trained in, and similarly it crosses all disciplines. So if you find that you have sort of an interest and a knack for these things, you will certainly be employed, because there's a need across all the disciplines. So I think that's mainly for week 1 what I wanted to say. For week 2, there wasn't a whole lot. I talk about in the beginning the role of the evaluator, and in my opinion, the evaluator is sort of a combination between a detective and expert puzzle maker. The detective pertains to really asking the right questions so you understand what the stakeholders' needs are, what the evaluation will be used for, what the program does, how does it interface with program participants. So you ask so many questions to understand the stakeholders, who they are, what they do, to understand the program. And then the puzzle maker part of it comes from putting together all that information. And that is sometimes can be really challenging for people. So I really feel that effective program evaluators are able to see the big picture. They are sort of critical and analytical thinkers. So that's what I want to get across for that. And then I just want to touch briefly on a few comments. You guys all did a great job in posting comments to our week 2 discussion. And I did comment back on at least everyone that had posted by this afternoon. But I wanted to just point out a few people touched on things that don't generally get talked about. So I just want to touch on those and maybe give you some tips. So the first one is Jeannie O'Rourke, and she commented on sort of when different stakeholders have different goals for the evaluation. And this can be incredibly tricky to deal with, but it's up to you as an evaluator to sort of seek common ground, or in some cases you actually have to almost do 2 evaluations. So to give you an example, I was evaluating the Work Styles program, which was at the Spring Institute, and it was a program designed to prepare refugees to be ready to enter the workforce here in the United States. And the program director really just wanted to know, is this program working? How can they improve the program? And the funder wanted to know, is this program increasing the economic self-sufficiency of refugees? And he had very few outcomes related to hourly wage, benefits, whether or not they got benefits, how many hours they're working, etc. And so their goals didn't really align. So we ended up doing a mixed methods evaluation, and we're able to sort of achieve or meet both of the different stakeholders' goals. But it was challenging. So that's something to just keep in mind, because that can certainly come up. Along the same lines with the same evaluation, so Aaron Baumberger posted a question about at what cost does a program evaluation come? And I'm not sure, Aaron, if this is exactly what you meant, but what it made me think of is sometimes evaluations will actually have really high stakes. So in this particular case of the Work Styles program, the funding was cut because of the quantitative evaluation. So I had no idea that would happen. And so understanding if there's really high stakes, what those are, will be important to know. I wouldn't have done anything different. I felt like the quality of work I did and my approach was spot on. But it would have been nice to have known sort of the high stakes ahead of time. So, and then Ola talks about effectively engaging stakeholders. I just want people not to overlook this. I really feel to be an effective evaluator, you have to have sort of high emotional intelligence and good interpersonal skills. So you have to be able to really read your stakeholders and understand their needs, not only by what they say, but also nonverbal clues. And sometimes how to most effectively engage them is very different depending on your stakeholders. So being aware of that is important. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. And then the last thing is Lee Wright talked about gaining access to data. And many of you talked about sort of understanding if data are currently being collected for the program, and if so, using those for your evaluation, which in theory is a very good idea. There's some potential cost savings, some savings of time if you don't have to collect data that already exists. But that being said, I want to sort of forewarn you on the quality of data that often exists in community-based programs. So oftentimes the data are incredibly messy. They come in a format that you cannot use for evaluation. So you end up spending a ton of time sort of cleaning and manipulating data in order to use it. So sometimes, even if data exists, that may not be the best approach to use in your evaluation. So for what it's worth, those are things that I've sort of gone to the School of Hard Knocks and learned, but they came up and I sort of noted them as being unusual, so I just wanted to point them out to everyone. So for everyone, great job on posting. I will sort of come to a close with this one and post these each week, and then I'll give you more information about the quiz tomorrow and about next week's course materials. So have a great night, go Broncos, and I hope actually to meet you all in person at some point. So anyways, have a good night. Bye.